So I was just going through the weirdest things to happen to me during these seizures or during these shakes or muscle spasms that bring me to the ground. And one of them, I'm trying to pinpoint which seizure it came from. I remember trying to make a phone call on a knife that was on my belt, calling 911. I'm not even kidding. I remember that. I remember falling to the ground on another one. I remember this one fully. I was done with my job for the day. I closed up my store. It was at nighttime. It was snowbanks to my right, left, snow everywhere. There is no real sidewalk. I have to walk on 108 to get home. There are no buses, no taxis, no transportation whatsoever. My father and family live 15 minutes away, but they prefer vacationing and they like to go to Florida, and they could give a shit less if I die that day or not. They don't care if I live or die. I've been having seizures and problems for 25 years, and you better believe my father's new wife, she hopes I die so she can keep on playing that lottery ticket. I mean, her husband died, my mother died, and then she jumped right in the bed with my father and she won the lottery. She won the jackpot. It got her daughter out of trouble when her daughter got caught and had to go to prison. It allowed her daughter to keep her children when she might have had to go to an orphanage like I grew up in. It allowed her to go on many vacations. She got to sit in the beach. And thanks to me dealing with my alcoholism, because alcohol treated this neurological condition, I waited for them to mourn my mother's death and their husband's death before having them clean up their mess and being like, hey, Dad, you got to clean this up. It's been 25 years. You cannot continue. I mean, just because my mother's dead doesn't mean the crime she committed go away. It's not, when you poison somebody over and over, it's not like just because the person who was doing the poisoning dies, all the damage is undone. But anyways, I'm going through these memories, and I got the time I was walking home from golf, and my head almost got popped like a blueberry because I had a seizure. I was on the ground bloody, but nobody stopped to get me help. I sat up after this because the car went over my hair, so I had to kind of roll over to the side a little bit. Then I sat up, but I tried to stand up, but I couldn't. I was like really, really cold, but I wasn't having any more seizure activity. I just was having muscle spasms. But eventually, after sitting there in the cold for a while, I went numb a little bit. I was shaking, but I was able to kind of crawl, then get to my feet, then stop, then get to my feet, then crouch, get to my feet, and get home. It was only another 3 football fields to go. So, yeah, I remember that. Oh, I remember being at work, knowing a seizure is about to come because of beeping, noises. One of my coworkers is belittling some fat girl, and I'm gonna I gotta have her written up in the morning, and and then she's flipping out, raising her hands, oh, oh no, 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 don't do that, don't do that. Because I was manager at the time, and she was supposed to be replacement management, but she's holding up this lady who's already 5 minutes late for her ride for no reason whatsoever other than she's just pissed off that she has to come into work that day. She came in all pissed off. She's belittling this So I just tell her, I said, I'm going to be having a talk with Becky in the morning, or whatever her name is, the head management in the morning, about your behavior, and I got to get out of here. My ride's waiting for me. So I continue counting the money, all the noises. I end up feeling the seizures coming. So I try to grab a phone, and then somehow I get on the ground near my register. I think I just walked 2 steps. I mean, it's only 2 steps, and then I fall to the ground. I remember falling to the ground a little bit, like my back hitting into some wood, and then on the ground I am with the phone. Then I remember trying to dial 911 and getting full body spasms. And then when I tried to talk, I couldn't get any words out of my mouth. It wasn't coming out. So I got the word ambulance out, and I gave the phone to somebody else. And then I went unconscious and had a seizure. But I think that might have been the time, because I found a knife in the bathroom that I was gonna put on, either did or was gonna put on Becky's desk. I remember having the thought that, well, what's the best way? She's not in, I'm management. We'll just leave her a note on her desk at the end of my shift. This was the third time. These addicts used to like our bathrooms for shooting heroin, and we're not allowed to refuse. Some of these were not allowed to refuse the bathroom, and it's open, so they just go in, do their thing. But sometimes they leave drugs, sometimes they leave a knife, Sometimes they leave clothing. I found backpacks, all different types of stuff that these drug addicts leave in the bathroom. But this day, there was shit on the wall like a booger I was cleaning up, and there was a knife on the ground. So it went into my pocket or belt or whatever, where my, actually, I think it went on my belt because that's where I normally keep my phone. And that would make more sense because if I did try to make a phone call on a knife during one of these seizures, and I clearly remember trying to make a phone call and holding a knife to my ear like an idiot. So, I mean, that's during a seizure. That's during this medical event. And the good part about a lot of the jobs I get is they're on camera, so I don't have to worry about people doing what my mother did. Like, for instance, one of my coworkers tried to make up a story and try to get me hurt because she was going to get written up, but it didn't work because there was witnesses and cameras. So she just was made a fool of. Everybody laughed at her. People were like, "You're nonsense. You're making up stories." They knew so because there's like 9 camera angles and there's multiple witnesses. She lost her job. I got a raise. I'm not even kidding. I got to go to another company. I got more money. I got to run my own store after the seizure because I was honest. I stuck to the truth and I was victimized by an asshole again. Somebody who wanted to twist the story. Oh, he's flipping out on the ground. Or, oh, we don't know if he's a customer or if he works here. Of course, you know I work here. I was just running the show. But see, they leave out information like that on purpose because they know they're in trouble in the morning. So they want to get you hurt. This is called vindictive behavior. My father's wives got this vindictive behavior down to a science. I'm not even kidding. I mean, they loved hurting me. They still to this day love getting me hurt. They're the type of people that will call my doctor and prevent me from getting medical care. That's what I mean. I tell them I got hurt as a child, and they call my doctor and prevent me from getting medical care. This is that vindictive behavior I'm talking about. So, anyways, I remember a lot of these PTSD memories during my seizures. My head, waking up to cars running over my hair, trying to being on the ground, seizing, or trying to make a phone call with a knife to my ear, grabbing a line, not being able to talk. The seizure during childhood, I remember riding a bike uphill, trying to pedal. All of a sudden, my whole body spasms and I fall over into the grassy lane. The bike comes with me. And then I just remember waking up a little scraped up. I also remember in New Mexico, I go out to play, but it's really cold, and we have no real basketball court. It's all grass splitting. It's they're gonna put a pool over it, and only the older kids can play with that flat ball. We're not allowed to really play with them because we are younger. We're like 9 years old. These other kids are 13, 14, and they want to really play. So we're put to the side and told to sit on the bench. So we don't know. We're not going to spend 4 hours sitting on a bench in the freezing cold. So we wander around the woods most of the time. But this was very cold. So instead, I sat up against a tree, hoping that that would block the wind, put my head in my jacket. Then I would peek up my head every so often. I remember going in the jacket, picking up my head. Then I remember the shakes and the shivers turning on. My jaw starts chattering. I start almost shivering. And then I seize. I remember my head banging the back of the tree during a seizure. I start seizing. And then I don't remember anything. I just remember waking up a little bit after that periodically, like wake up, fall back to sleep, wake up freezing in the cold, waiting for somebody to come get me. Now I remember being woken up by a staff member and him telling, "Do you realize the other kids went in hours ago?" I said, "No, I can't move. I'll help you move." And then the staff brings me inside, gives me a cup of hot chocolate, and we all forget about it. I remember that seizure too. So I'm going through these seizures and these memories of the really bad full-blown seizures. But there's also times where I was awake for these muscle spasms. I was bumping into stuff all the time. Like, for instance, I also got the memory of my mother and father belittling me because I'm disabled. So I'm in Chelmsford and I get home from school or home from something. I come in through the garage, I open the door. Right in the living room is my mother and father. My mother and father start asking me, "What are those marks on your shins?" So I look down and they're bumps, they're scrapes, they're bruises, normal bumping in the stuff. But I get these all the time. And I know this, my mother knows this, she knew this from Westford. We've now gone to New Mexico, Texas, Maine, and we're back to Chelmsford. They knew this back in Westford. And so I tell them I'm bumping in the stuff. You know this. It's normal kid stuff, you told me. This is what they told me. They said bumping in the stuff is a normal coordination issue. So why are you guys acting all violent with me? Why are you screaming at me? Why is my mother screaming at me because I'm bumping into stuff? I can't control that. I have muscle spasms. I have tics. I brought it up in Dr. Blum's office. The teachers told you about it. This is nothing. You guys don't want to look into this, you told me. You guys putting me into psychiatry for this. It's not. Well, why are you guys now screaming at me for bumping into stuff? My mother goes, I think you're doing it on purpose. I think you're scraping your shins with something on purpose. And that's nuts because cutters cut. They don't bump into stuff on purpose. That's crazy. You know how much your shins hurt after you bump into stuff? It's not a fun experience, especially when you lose watches too. Oh, yes, that's right. My wrists bump in the doorknobs a lot too because while I'm trying to walk, my leg or arms will spasm out sometimes. If I try to move my arm, sometimes my left leg or right leg will spasm. It's because my mother gave me an overdose at age 7 and fried my nervous system. That's why this happens. I mean, there was a big change that day. I went from never noticing this to, oh my God, something's wrong. I feel this for life. So you know when this shit starts. Traumatic experiences you don't forget. Like, for instance, I'm sure that somebody would go, oh, you don't remember childhood memories like that, so you're lying. Well, that's an asshole if they say that, because I'll tell you right now, my own mother remembered a cut on her leg from childhood at the age of 60. So at the age of 60 years old, my mother still remembered how she got a cut on her leg during childhood. When it comes to traumatic events, something like somebody holds you down and drugs you, or they give you extra Epicac, or they give you an overdose and you lose your sight and your body's never the same again. You never forget how that happened. You never forget those memories. Those type of memories stick like glue. Happy memories you have to really focus on. It's a little more difficult to go over. When my whole, I mean, every year I have at least 20 PTSD memories thanks to my mother. I have like me not being able to get clothing and the kids making fun of me because I'm wearing short shorts because I outgrew them. I got wearing extra large sweaters because I'm cold and we don't have any sweaters I can put over other sweaters. This is the type of thing. And why was this going on? Because out of 16 kids in this program, 15 loaded into a van, went to the mall, and went clothing shopping every month. One child was left in the program with one staff to stay in his room and eat Chef Boyardee instead of McDonald's every month. And that was me. Now, you might think this was a punishment, and normally that is how they punish us. We have to stay in our room. But in this case, they told me I needed to ask my father why this is happening, why I'm not allowed to go get clothing with the other kids. And he never gave me a straight answer, but here's the answer. I was getting a $980 Social Security check with my name on it while I was living in this program and only staying in my father's house 8 days out of a month. And my father thought that that meant that he should keep all that money towards rent and only give me the minimum of clothing and food, meaning I should only eat good food 2 days a week. And I should only have clothing like twice a year. And if I outgrow them, that's okay. I should just wear the short shorts because there's nothing wrong with them. Stuff like that. This is why I was left in my room because my father couldn't give the program $50 a month for me to go clothing shopping. No, he was going to do it, he told them. Oh, then why am I in such need of clothing? Why am I literally the only kid that isn't properly clothed out of this? I mean, these are all orphans around me with no parents. Where I came from, these are kids who were born as orphans or taken from their mothers like I was. So, why do they have clothing that fit? And every year as they grow, they get new clothing than me. I mean, don't get me wrong, my father did bring me clothing shopping. It just wasn't even close to what's efficient. I'm not even kidding. We're talking maybe $200 to $300 a year on clothing, very minimum. And a lot of it was shoes and hats. If you really want to ask where most of the money went, a pair of shoes is pretty expensive, some hats, underwear, socks, stuff like that. And a lot of it got spent on Christmas. A lot of my clothing came on Christmas time. So it was heavy clothing. But as far as my shorts, most of them I outgrew and had to wear shorts way before I got a pair that fit me. I would go 2 years with shorts. And I mentioned it to my father that these other kids were going clothing shopping $200 a month and that I just needed to go with them. And he could have given $50 a month to this program, and I could have gone out and picked out a couple shirts a month or something, but that never fazed his mind. No. Having me punished every month is what he preferred. This was my father's decision. He made this decision. He either could give some of my Social Security check towards a clothing budget, like these other kids have, and the program will bring me to the mall, and they will walk me around to make sure I'm buying clothing, just like the other kids get, and then I'll get the McDonald's on the way home, and then the other kids won't make fun of me anymore for wearing rags and not being able to go to the mall, and then seeming like I'm getting punished for nothing. Meanwhile, my father's at home not worrying about any of this with a martini in his hand watching a movie. Meanwhile, I'm crying because all the kids are making fun of me because I have no clothing money. These are the type of things I'm talking about. He won't own up to this. He won't see this as a mistake. He'll say, I got everything. Zach was spoiled as a child. I literally got food poisoning in a program in New Mexico. I wasn't fed properly. I did not get a proper education. I'm missing 4 years of education. I was able to catch up because I worked 10 times harder than other children. Oh boy, New Mexico had nothing. We had 3 months of education in the beginning. That teacher bailed out, and then the staff members tried to do it like camping class. We went out to the field and we camped, and that continued to nighttime. Or we had a video game class, which Toby ran, where we got to play this new video game where it was zombies or something. Then there was another video game class where we got to play a fighting game. These were just staff members bringing in fun activities that keep us busy. A scavenger hunt. One day it was a scavenger hunt. It was just staff. Another day, a staff member brought us to go chop rocks off a side of this highway to look for fossils, and we got some. We all really found a fossil. I didn't realize in New Mexico you could just drive on the side of these roads and you could find fossils in the rocks. There was like shells and plants and fossilized in this rock. We all came home with one. Then Toby took all of our fossils and smashed them in the back, yelling at the other girl staff member who brought us and saying, that's not a good class. Meanwhile, he has video game class. So this wasn't education. Similar to when we came back to Massachusetts, one of those schools I went to. Now, Chelmsford Middle School was good. The MEC program wasn't bad. It's a little dulled down, but it still had classes and education. The other one, the high school where there was a technical high school, their classes, they still had classes, they still were teaching. But one of the schools that I went to in Massachusetts when we came back from Texas literally let me play toys for the whole year. That whole year of education, all I did was play Yu-Gi-Oh! And with toys. That's it for the whole year. Wiffle ball, eat lunch, toys, Yu-Gi-Oh! Wiffle ball, eat lunch, toys, Yu-Gi-Oh! No more wiffle ball today because it's raining. We're going to make soap and toys and eat and go home. This was for a whole year. Now, other kids were going through this too, missing their education, so they got caught. The school got caught for this. But not by my parents. My parents knew about this. I told them about the no classes. What do you think they did? They called the school, complained, and I got punished by the school. Like always, they made things worse because they didn't think things through. They didn't care what happened to me. They didn't think about me. What's going to happen to my son when I make this phone call? They didn't think like